Hello. Good evening. I will now call the February 27th, 2024 meeting of the Ben Lapine School Board of Directors to order. I'd like to introduce our participants this evening. To my immediate left, Vice Chair Marcus LeGrand, Director Amy Tatum, Director Keena Chadwick, Director Cameron Fisher, and Director Shirley Olson. To my immediate right, our Superintendent Stephen Cook, Deputy Superintendent Lauren Nordquist, and Board Clerk Janet Bochnowski. And I am Melissa Barnes-Delakia, Chair of the Board. We are joined by Erin Trimble and Hannah Westfall tonight for ASL interpretation, and a Spanish interpretation of the work session is being provided on the BLS School Board YouTube page. In order to ensure safety and the ability for the board to focus on its business, we ask that all in the audience adhere to board meeting attendee expectations. This includes being seated and holding signs under chin level. If there are no available chairs, which clearly there are plenty tonight, individuals may wait in the lobby until one is available. Thank you. I will now invite you to remove your hats, stand, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight's meeting will focus on reporting work in support of the following district goals. Goal 2, that students develop a passion, a purpose, and a plan for their future. And toward that end, we will hear about specific initiatives, goals, and data around student success planning. We will also be focusing on Goal 4, that our operational systems align to and support a sustainable, inclusive, and academically enriching program. And toward that end, we will hear about and consider voting on a local option levy. We will also be voting on the OSEA bargaining agreement. The OSEA CBA summary document has been updated since the board meeting was noticed, and a presentation on the local option levy has been added. Both documents are included in the board packet. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes from the district's point of view.
Are there, fellow board members, are there any changes to the agenda? I am going to request one change, which is to remove item 4B, the OSEA CBA vote from the consent for action agenda so that we may vote on it separately as one board member has a spouse that is enrolled in that bargaining unit. Is that? Yep. Great. All in favor of that amendment to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. We will move forward with the agenda as amended. Our first item will be that consent for action. Items that are routine in nature are placed on the consent agenda. Any item placed on the consent for action may be removed at the request of any board member prior to the time a vote is taken. All remaining items for the consent for action are then disposed of in a single motion. We will now move forward with approval of recommendations for renewal or non-renewal. I will take a motion.
I move the adoption of the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Great. Director Olson has moved. Vice Chair LeGrand has motioned. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we will move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We will now take a separate vote for approval of the OSEA collective bargaining agreement. Do I hear a motion?
Motion that we approve. I make a motion that we approve the recommendation for the renewal and non-renewals.
Oh, other one, OSEA collective bargaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. OSU private agreement, my bad.
Thank you.
I'll second.
I would like to now entertain a motion for the approval of the Oregon School Employees Association collective bargaining agreement.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the Oregon State Employee Association collective bargaining agreement.
You can just say I second. I'm looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Vice Chair LeGrand has moved and Director Chadwick has seconded. Is there any further discussion? We'll now move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All not in favor, say nay. And are there any abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention. Thank you. All right, we'll now move into our action items this evening. And we will be hearing from Superintendent Cook and Scott Maben, Director of Communications, on our local option levy.
Thank you, Chair Barnes-Delakia. We've got just a couple of slides I want to share with you.
And I will note that in Board Book, those are not accessible to the board right now.
Yeah, we were able to see it earlier, but I can't see it now.
Oh,
Correct.
interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay, thank you. I would like to start by bringing us back to February 13th meeting. If you recall, we had a fairly extensive presentation and we went through a lot of data that we received through the process of finding out receptivity of our community to the idea of a levy, and not just the idea, but even perhaps conceptually, if supportive, what the parameters of those items might look like. And so what I'd like to present to you tonight, I think I have control of this, is just some slight modifications that we discovered were both necessary and as an answer to a couple of suggestions from this board on language recommendations that we spent some time with the county clerk's office getting more clarification, and we've got those implemented as well. So let's start with the ballot title. Oh, this is vibrating, I don't know. Okay, if you recall, there's word limitations on each of the aspects of a ballot if we were gonna go to the ballot. And some of this is very structured, and you can see here that the caption has to be 10 words or less, the question has to be 20 words or less, that plainly phrase what we're talking about. There was a question from this board about a sentence fragment, actually, that we actually determined, and I'll turn into that in a second. And then there's a 175-word limit for the summary. And so 2 of these sections received modifications since our last meeting. And so here's the first one, caption. Same as it was in our presentation on the 13th. This is a 5-year local option levy for consideration to improve and support student learning. The question that has the 20-word limit, shall the district levy $1 per thousand assessed value for 5 years beginning 24-25 to bridge funding gaps and support priorities? The question that we had on the February 13th meeting was the language and the way that the next sentence was read. This measure may cause property taxes to increase more than 3%. That language, as you can see, we looked that up in conversation with the county clerk. That's statutorily required to be included on any ballot measure item. Also, talking with the county clerk's office, we had a little bit of modification to the summary. If you recall, this is a 175-word limitation. I want to draw attention to a couple of things. The first one is going back to those 6 bulleted items. These are items that we have been talking about all throughout the district as a point of emphasis and a point of interest that we have built into our strategic planning process, and to seek an opportunity for engagement around those with voters. And so those bullets were actually part of the survey tool, asking for receptivity and interest in support with additional resources in these 6 areas. And so I want to emphasize those again. Protecting and maintaining class size was a high priority. It's a high priority in our strategic planning, and it's also a high priority in the community's aspect of what we are considering. Second one, strengthening and adding career technical education pathways. You might hear a little bit about that tonight in student success planning, but not just adding new pathways, but ensuring that our existing pathways are meeting the needs of our students and also meeting the needs of our community's employers for providing high-impact jobs, high-wage positions for our graduates, oftentimes even before they graduate. The third one, recruiting and retaining teachers and support staff. As we have talked about through the bargaining process, this continues to be a point of emphasis for us in the district. It continues to be a point of emphasis for our staff to feel and know that, and lots of dialogue in the system about this particular important initiative. Our fourth one, increasing advanced academic offerings for students. We tie this one back. Oftentimes you hear the term rigor. Isn't necessarily mean more work. It means opportunities for students to be deeply engaged in their particular pathway, and what are those opportunities for kids, and can we do even more than we're doing right now? The fifth one, improving support systems for struggling students. That's at all levels, K through 12. What are we doing when a student isn't thriving to the level of hope and expectation that we would have, and what are the supports that we have in place? Just like opportunities for students who are thriving and doing very well and would benefit from advancement, those take resources, additional resources, or take allocation of current resources that if we wish to expand those, we would need more funds for. Last but not least, this idea of enhancing elective offerings, including music, fine arts, that's coming out of the pandemic. One of the recurring things I have heard across the district is that engaging students back in the fine arts has been a priority, and trying to draw students back into that to create that environment. And so these 6 categories have resonated both with our staff, with district leadership, with our community. And so those are the points that are of most interest when we talk about the possibility of receiving or asking for additional funds. And so one of the things that you'll see in the summary that was requested, there's a couple of things that are important here. The first is that the county clerk's office asked us to do what we anticipated would be the cost of $1 per thousand if it were going to be assessed upon the community over the 5-year length of the levy. This includes compression, which is a terminology that, if Brad's downstairs, if we want to go into great detail, I think we can talk about this, but it's based upon the fact that an overall cap exists on the amount of assessed taxing that can happen on a property's valuation. And once you get to that $5 per thousand cap, you start to see some compressing of the amount you can actually receive in tax value. And so those 5 years of data include the anticipated compression for houses in our community, properties in our community is probably a better way to say it, that their value of their assessed value of their house approaches the real market value. And that's an important consideration, because people may look at the assessed value, median assessed value of a home in Deschutes, or excuse me, in Ben Lapine School District proper is about $239,000. And we've already heard from folks that you can't buy a house for $239,000, and we understand that. That's not the real market value. That is the median assessed value of a home within the Ben LaPine Schools District. And so you see those data, that's predicted. We won't know that for sure, but that's what is obviously our predictions on the amount that this would generate at $1 per thousand. After our presentation, that was a follow-up conversation with the county clerk's office, including the 5-year total, which is, as you see there at the bottom. And so timeline is one of the reasons why this conversation is happening now. We're facing a deadline that's coming up quite shortly if we wish to get this into the county clerk's office in time to qualify for the 7-day challenge period. And so March 1st is coming up right around the corner. So those deadlines are there in your packet. You'll also notice a new deadline we did not have at the last conversation was March 25th, which is the time for filing deadlines to be included in the voters pamphlet for anything that we would anticipate adding to that. And last but not least, if this were approved by you all tonight, it would be included on the May 21st ballot. Those we anticipate would be going out on May 1st. And so going out to registered voters through the mail. And so I wanted to point out those changes and those modifications. Scott is here if you have lots of questions and questions beyond my capacity or questions that the county clerk has been answering for us here in the last few weeks. And I would tell you that it is our best recommendation that we feel like it would be appropriate to go to the voters at the May 21st election to ask this community whether they would be supportive of $1 per thousand taxing levy for the next 5 years. Glad to stand for questions.
I have one question. When we went back to the text, and I know I want to separate this out, but that one, yes. So as presented in February 13th, I believe that career and tech pathways are actually our #1 thing that our community is asking for. So I'm just curious in the order, because I believe that's a change from what we saw in the polling numbers of what our community wants.
We did 2 surveys, and both of those items were high on both of the surveys. And so as far as which one was the highest, as far as, both of them were extremely, they were of very high interest in the polling data. We'd have to go back and look at those survey questions.
I just looked, and I think in the first one, it was 78% for those pathways for kids. And then even in the second one, it was well above it was at least a 5% favorable. And so I'm just, based on what our community has asked for, I would wonder whether we wanted to lead our bullets with the thing that they've asked for the most.
So I just want to make sure I understand. You're thinking that it would be beneficial to flip those, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I don't think there's any concern with that at all.
Great. Are there any questions from my fellow board members?
Thank you, Steve, for the reminder that median assessed value is different than what we see in the real estate ads and what people see. Are we required to add that to the explanation? Or as an example, are we required to have that example in there?
We are not required to have that as an example. And I think the question becomes, how do you best use your 175 words? And I don't know if anybody's taken a minute to count these, but there's 175 words in this summary right now as it stands. It doesn't mean that informational items and information that would be a part of this, or perhaps in the voters pamphlet, we would make sure to make that designation, because I anticipate that's going to be a significant point of interest for potential voters and folks who see those numbers, see that 239,000. That number is definitely an eye grabber. You want to add anything to that, Scott?
So that would appear in the voters pamphlet, correct?
Correct. So we have an opportunity to submit an explanatory statement of up to 500 words for the voters pamphlet. I've already started drafting that language, and I have included a paragraph that draws the distinction between market value and assessed value, and where on your tax statement you can find the assessed value. We'll also have a website, a web page up shortly with details about this request that has a graphic that illustrates assessed value and where exactly that will circle it on your tax statement. So in all our communications going forward, we will endeavor to draw that distinction and make it very clear what we're talking about there.
Good, because that's going, I think that would be an issue. I'm going to say, my house is worth X number dollar amount if I put it up for sale, and that means my $1 per thousand is going to be a lot more than $239. So that conversation is really important. I have one more question about the voters pamphlet. There is always an opportunity for an opposition statement or a summary. Where does that come from?
So there's an opportunity for arguments in favor or in opposition to those measures. Those would come from, really anyone in the community could submit those. There's a fee, and there's a deadline of March 25th to submit those. So people who have strong feelings one way or the other on the proposal may craft and submit those. I think there's a word limit as well that applies to those. And then they can submit them through the county clerk's office.
Is there a limit to how many can be submitted, Scott?
I believe so.
County clerk can make that determination?
On a limit or
On which gets printed in the voters pamphlet?
I'm not entirely clear like what criteria. I don't know what basis they would reject one, as long as it meets the basic criteria of length and that
Length and they pay for it, then probably it goes in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've read
Like to
quite a
have some-
few from past years, and they're all over the
Yeah,
map, so.
okay. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
I'm sorry, can you confirm that the website address will be in the voters pamphlet? Is that correct? Did I understand that right?
So the address to our informational website will be part of our explanatory statement.
Okay.
Correct. And that's one of many ways that we will work to get that information out for the public.
Thank you.
And I would just tack on to that the district can provide access to lots of information. The district can, in the role of communications, can provide information that answers a lot of questions, FAQs. Where we have to be very careful is getting into the use of public resources in the form of advocacy. And so the difference that when we talk about accurate information being provided by the district, that's well within the purview and very safe for the district to do. But if we were to say, and we think you should go vote for this, that would be a violation. And so.
After the lead article in the Bend Bulletin today about our drop in enrollment, will that be spoken to in the summary in some way, Scott? I don't know well, I guess what I'm saying is I can see somebody asking, you're losing kids, why do you need more money? You're going to get money, but they don't know about how we get our money.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to talk about that. I think there's the primary funding mechanism for how districts are funded all across the state of Oregon is average daily enrollment with a weighting factor that goes into it. And so when we build a budget, every year, we start with what is that weighted enrollment? And as it goes up or down, we staff up or down. And so while there's a decrease in number of students that have been in the district since 2019, I think is what that article stated. That's the relationship between funding and how we staff that is a yearly conversation. So if we were to go all the way up to 30,000 kids or all the way down to 5,000 kids, every single year we're staffing to meet the needs of that system. And that's a process that we go through every single year. And so what we didn't put in this summary language is that we're asking for opportunities to make up lost revenue from decreased enrollment. What you are seeing in those bullets are the priorities that we intend to focus these dollars on so that we're expanding opportunities for kids or meeting their needs, whether we're at 17,000 or 20,000 or 25,000 or 4,000, giving access to these students that we do serve the opportunities that we see in these 6 bulleted items.
And ultimately what you're saying is this: community, as we grow, you're investing in the futures of not only the students, the teachers, all the people that they need access. If we're going to say, hey, why are we ranked this and this, and why is the graduation rate here? We need these supports to continue to happen. And you just mentioned it. And if we don't, then what happens is we lose great teachers for not having the resources to do so. So ultimately what you're saying is, hey, we are asking to continue support and to make sure that we continue to do the things we need to do for our students and their families. Bottom line, I think, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, not just continue, but expand and continue. Continue and expand so that we are providing opportunities for our students that either could be expanded or maybe even brand new ones.
I will say I'm so excited that we are voting on this tonight alongside our next presentation, because what I really see in this potential local option levy opportunity is to really create a system that is great for kids, is great for families, and is really great for our community. And seeing this as just a really full partnership. And so with that said, I am going to entertain a motion to approve. I will entertain a motion as noted in Board Book.
I move to authorize the district to place a local option levy as proposed on the May 21st, 2024 primary election ballot.
I second.
Thank you. Director Tatum has moved. Director Fisher has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I will move for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, 6-0. Yay! This is pretty monumental. It's been 20 years since this community has tried to do something like this, and I'm just really excited about the work ahead. All right, we will now move into our work session. Item 6A on the student success planning, and we will be led by Stephen Duvall, Director of College and Career Readiness.
Hello. Yes, I'm Stephen Duvall, Director of College and Career Readiness, and alongside me, I have Jess Calbreth, who is our lead counselor on special assignment. And we are here today to kind of give you an update on EL 2.1, student success planning. And so we're going to take you through kind of some big picture stuff, and then actually you all will be able to demo an exciting new program that we have and do some things through the eyes of our students. And have some work time on that, and then we'll talk next steps. So, cool. So, yep, just touching base on that passion, plan, and purpose. And so in EL 2.1, we talk about secondary sites beginning implementation of School Links College and Career Platform. So Jess and I tonight are gonna really hit that School Links College and Career Platform. What is it? Why do we choose it? What's it gonna do for our kids? How's it gonna benefit students? And then give you an opportunity to check it out. So as some of you might remember, I've been in front of the board before to talk about our Life and Career Readiness Initiative. And really, this goes back about 2 years where we had a group of folks that went through and looked at the research around college and career readiness, and really came across this model through CASEL of this blend of the 5 CASEL competencies and workforce readiness. And really, it blends the idea of those skills that we want our students to have when they leave our classrooms alongside the exploration and awareness of career pathways. And there are other states across the country that have been leaders in this, and we've kind of followed suit in terms of that model of just that blend of that SEL, self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, alongside that career exploration and self-identity. So, you may have seen this graphic. This is the Ben Lapine Life and Career Readiness graphic that our steering committee put together that kind of encapsulates that idea and that blend of who am I as a student, where am I going, what do I like to do, what do I not like to do, and what pathways exist for me, and then what tools will I need to be successful in whatever path I choose. And so we use the river, Deschutes River, we're a river community, and so we kind of have themes up there by grade level, and then the skills that come from CASEL down below. And so tonight, we're gonna really focus on that 612 skill set with School Links and give you a rundown of what that looks like. So why? Why is this important? Here is our 2024 Youth Truth data around college and career readiness. And so as you can see, as a district, this is from students at the high school level. Their reporting of how they feel about our job doing how we're doing as a job of getting them ready for college and career is in the 19th percentile. So a lot of work to be done. However, you can also see that if we go back 3 years, we've been steadily creeping up, and so we are making some progress, but we have a long way to go. This data has also been disaggregated for you by different groups there, so you can kind of see where everybody falls. Again, we'd like to see that in that 3rd or 4th quartile, but if we go back 4 years, we started at the 4th percentile and we're up to the 19th, so progress being made, but a lot more work to be done. And so that's why we're optimistic and hopeful that School Links can help with that journey. So another reason why is if you took a look at what we were doing in our sites around college and career readiness, we were kind of varied, would be a good word to use. 612 in terms of how we tackled this among our students with our counselors, our teachers, our advisories. I'm not gonna go through this all the way, but you can see that for every single thing up there, there's multiple apps and websites and tools that we were using, and it really wasn't a coordinated effort. And so this is our attempt to kind of take all of that and coordinate it and streamline it so that we have a uniform platform and tool for all our students and staff across the district. So we took that steering committee that came up with that same graphic I showed you and looked at a variety of tools that could help us achieve that goal of having our students ready for whatever pathway they want to choose when they leave high school. And so in the end, we looked through a variety of factors and came away with 2, School Links being one, and Wayfinder being the other. And I think you've heard Jennifer Houth talk a little bit about Wayfinder in the past. And so we are using both these tools in tandem with each other to kind of achieve that goal. But for tonight, we're just gonna focus on the School Links piece. So some of the reasons that the committee came away with choosing School Links, really this was a foundational piece for us, the promotion of all pathways. We know that subconsciously a lot of times there's that idea that it's K-12 then college and that's the pathway, and then the other pathways aren't on the same footing, and we know that that's not true and not accurate. And School Links does a really good job of promoting pathways for all students, whether that is college, 4-year, 2-year, technical trade schools, going into the workforce, getting internships, apprenticeships. It really does a good job, military. And so that was one of the big reasons why we landed there. Access for all, it can be accessed in multiple languages. Parents can access it in multiple languages. It's web-based, so you don't have to have a specific app or an operating device or tool to use. And it integrated really well with our existing system. Jess is going to talk a little bit about where we can go with this moving forward, but it does streamline with our student information system synergy, and we can do some really exciting things because of that. And there's also a really strong connection to CTE, which was near and dear to my heart, with this tool around the way that our CTE teachers could use this and how it could connect to work-based learning in the future. So again, that idea of one-stop shopping for our students, our staff, our counselors, to really get them ready and willing to go forward with their college and career planning.
Is it mobile friendly?
Is it what?
Mobile friendly?
Yes, mobile friendly,
Okay.
iPad friendly, phone friendly, computer friendly, yep. So what can it do? This is kind of a graphic from their site that shows all of the things. We aren't using it right now for all of these things, but you can kind of see that each one of these boxes was a different tool in our current setup. And SchoolLinks was able to kind of take all of that and put it in one spot for us and really streamline that process for students and staff. So I'm going to turn it over to Jess. I sent you guys an email maybe about an hour ago that with a link to log in. You can, once you do that, you'll be able to kind of get in. It'll take you to this page right here. So Jess is actually going to kind of take you through a quick demo of everything, and then we're going to have you go through the process yourself and get to play around for a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over to Jess Calbreth to kind of talk about what SchoolLinks can do and how we're going to use it, and then you'll get an opportunity to demo as a student and play around with some of the neat features that it has.
Awesome. Okay. So you guys will all log in. We log in via Clever, so don't follow what I'm doing. And then it will bring you to the dashboard that the staff will see on their side. But we're going to have you demo as a student today. So you just click on demo. And this is nice for us as counselors. We use this a lot because we like to see what the students see before we go through a lesson with them. So I'm going to pick a student from Summit High School, and it's a fake student. And then pick a 12th grader. So if you guys, when you do log in, to be able to see all of what we're going to show you tonight, if you can log in as a senior, a 12th grader, that would be great. Oh, yeah, you can just watch and then, yeah, it's because it's a lot. Okay, so I'm going to log in, and now this is what a student will see when they log in. So the first time they log in, we actually, the counselors, we developed a lesson for them. We call it onboarding. And so essentially it's logging in the student. We give them an overview of what the platform can do, and then we actually have them complete an assessment called Find Your Path, which asks students a variety of questions like yes and no. They give like a thumbs up or an X to each statement, and then it provides them with information on possible career interests that they may have. And then we have students investigate those career interests and then set a career goal, an initial career goal that they can change throughout their time in middle and high school. So I'll walk through kind of the main items in here. So on this left-hand side, students are able to navigate throughout the app. So the school with the little apple, that one we don't use as much this year because we're still in year 0, but eventually that's what they're going to be doing all their course planning and educational plan and profile. The activities, I'm going to start with assessments. So you're going to see once you get in here, there are a lot of activities that are available to students. And so these are assessments that allow students to investigate different college and career interests, and students can repeat these. So right now, counselors, we're playing around with them. We're having some students try them out and figuring out what grade level they might best live. But it could be that you take Find Your Path every year because students' interests might change each year. And it could be that we do Would You Rather every other year. So we're still figuring out our logical scope and sequence. But essentially, so this is the Find Your Path. I've already taken it as a student, and it gives you results. So you can review all your past results. You can see your different character traits, what clusters match your interests, and then, you know, a lot of kids like to be connected to a famous person. So it might give you a famous person that has similar interests as you. And so for all of these, they'll give them a profile of results that they can use to then continue their career exploration. And then we also have the Learning Hub, which is a series of kind of mini lessons that walk students through. So these can actually either be done with like us going in front of them and helping them walk through it, or we have students that have logged in and are already going and finding these and completing these lessons because it gives them step-by-step instructions. But you'll see it goes anywhere from self-discovery, it talks about financial aid, it has a lot of the different post-secondary options, we got college applications, so there's a ton of exploratory tools for students to use. And then one that a lot of students like, and even I like playing around with this one, we have the Game of Life, where you can set your own scenario. You can say, this is my job, this is how much I make, and then you have to try to make a budget that works with what you want to do with. So it's always life-changing for kids, I think. And then with all that, we have students set goals. So these can be updated at any time, but then this is data for us as counselors and as staff, and even parents can go in and see what their goals are that their students have set. So they pick a future path, a career goal, college goal, if that's applicable, and then a major training goal. And so then we can run analytics to see where the interests of our students are currently at, to then kind of help us dictate and plan programming based on their interests. So that's the activities. There's lots in there. Every time I go in, I feel like I find something new and exciting to do. For colleges, students can go in and they can search different colleges. They can select the degree type. There's various ways to go in and search, anywhere from non-degree certificate programs to four-year institutions. You can search by location. You can search by and sort by graduation rate. Eventually, we're gonna have data from this year's seniors on where they applied and what their enrollment decision was, so that students in the next years can use that data to kind of see where Ben Lapine students are going. Students can then favorite colleges, so they can put in schools that they're interested in, and this list can be ever-changing as they, anywhere from 6th grade up until when they actually apply. There are admission statistics next year. These are gonna look a lot prettier because we're gonna have district data. It's not currently turned on because we haven't gotten the data yet, but they'll be able to see a scatter plot. So they can put their GPA and see how many students applied to Boise State and how many got in. So it will kind of help them build a list of schools. And then what we used a lot this year was the college application piece. Before, everyone was hodgepodging where students were applying. Counselors were getting multiple requests from all over to be submitting important documents to the colleges. This hosts it all in one location. So it's a college application manager, not only for students, but also for counselors and staff. So we can be tracking everything that we're doing with the college application process. I can see where a student is at in it. They can see when I've submitted my items. I can see if they've submitted their application. So it's really been helpful to counselors this year and has alleviated a lot of the kind of paper tracking. It's all in one place. And it's been helpful for students to manage, as well as parents have access to this to be able to kind of see where their kids are at with the college application process. And then what I like is let me get to a college. Oh. So
Working ahead.
every school has its own little portal once you add it to your application, and it walks them through. So it connects with the Common App. So Common App is like, it's the main way you can apply to most colleges now. So it connects with that. And then it gives them to-do lists. It will tell them whether or not they need a recommender for their teacher. They get to add it in here. The teacher gets an email, so they know how to submit it. And then it has all the counselor documents as well that are required. So it's been life-changing this year, so. So that's been very helpful. And then once they can decide, they can tell us where they decide to go, we'll be able to track that data as well. And then for careers, there's a whole career section in here. So you can go to the Career Center. And there you're able to search different careers so they take regional jobs in Oregon. After students will complete a bunch of the career assessments, it gives them clusters that they might be interested in, so students can explore by a cluster. They can favorite those. There's hot careers, what's getting hired a lot across the country, and then they can keep all their favorited careers in one place. And when you click on something, I'm gonna do school counseling because that's me. Bias. I know. It will give them a general overview. It gives a little video of what a day in the life of a school counselor would maybe do, or an educational counselor, what they do, kind of the training versus salary. It gives them an overview of what you would need in order to become a counselor, what licenses, different qualities, and then other majors that you may want to consider. And then there's a little Q&A that people you can type in answers to, and then a career outlook based on where you're living, national. So there's like a whole lot of investigating that students can do and kind of do a deep dive and look at similar careers. They can favorite that. They can, if you're investigating a different career and they're like, oh, this is actually something I really want to do, they can set that as a career goal, and then look at related opportunities. Another thing, is the resume. So we have lots of students that work and are always asking to do resume building. So it provides them with a template, and then they can export the template once they've completed it. So we can do workshops, but it can be hosted all in one location, and they can update it as they progress. They can start this as early as 6th grade when they get school links, and they can start just reflecting on strengths, weaknesses, any accomplishments that they have, and then we get down into the job and internship experiences, and then all they have to do is export it when they do apply for a job or scholarship or anything like that. And then under finances, our STC program managers have been working very diligently to get a lot of our scholarships uploaded in here. So I'm just gonna progress through here. We can see that all the district posted scholarships, so students can actually do their scholarship search within the same platform that they're doing their career search, college exploration, apprenticeship search, all of it. So it's all hosted in here, which is great. And then there's also a college financing module as well, where students can go in, they can input financial information and get like a general sense of what the cost of college would be based on their selections.
So Marcus, question, then we'd like to give you some time to go in and log in and check out some of these features. Yes.
I have a million logistical questions before I even get to the play around part.
Okay.
Because as a counselor myself, thank you for being a counselor. I love being a counselor. The first question is this going to be considered a class because the rollout's going to be significant for people to be able to get this uptick? I would look at this as a course because I think it's essential for them to understand how to utilize this tool. Next question is, once they graduate, will they still be able to have access to this, or they're using it personal, or they're using it school? The other question is, do the scholarships, are they culturally specific.
Yes.
Because you had non-documented students, that kind of stuff as well to consider. You have students who are going into different backgrounds and different scholarships offer different things. Because I know I use a million scholarships.
So they can sort by if they're a citizen or not, whether they have that documentation or not. I'll work backwards. And then the second question was around, will they have access as alumni? Yes. Part of a senior requirement, this is actually great for us as a district too. When they're a senior, requires them to enter a personal email address. That will become their new login address, and they will have access to this forever at no additional cost to us. And they can go back and look through things, and then we can actually still reach out and contact them if we want to eventually do surveys or something of alumni. And so they will have permitted access. They will be able to request transcripts as alumni through here at no cost to us as well. So a huge benefit there. And then as far as the class goes, we're going to talk a little bit in a minute around next steps. I am aware that there is a half credit requirement from the state coming around college and career planning. There's still a lot of details that are murky on that and whether or not that's going to be a standalone class, it'll be part of another class, who's credentialed to teach it. None of that's been decided. However, this is in our mind when we're thinking about like what curriculum could we potentially use to meet those standards. I'm on the ODE group putting the standards together. And what I can tell you is the standards that as they're coming out, School Links can meet and exceed every one of those. And so I'm really excited about that blend coming together. But we'll talk a little bit about like what is the tier 1 plan moving forward, who's gonna lift this, who's lifting it now after you guys demo.
Especially like you said, with that new requirement coming down, is this something gonna be in terms of being a portfolio type thing to do? Or is this something that the Future Center coordinators are going to be able to be that 0.5 or add on to what their responsibilities are? Or like I said, or is it going to be a class?
We just don't know yet on that requirement.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Jess, when you were talking about populating future Ben Lapine graduates and where they wind up in what colleges, what universities, what military, those things, is that data that they are populating for us, or is that coming from the clearinghouse? How is that data? Is that required?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Okay.
We'll have access to both.
This integrates with National Student Clearinghouse as well, and it'll run analytics and should actually have better. Actually, I've seen better visuals than National Student Clearinghouse. They use the same spreadsheet data. We don't have a class through yet, so we haven't seen it. But there'll be the self-selected, and then where they applied and where they accepted, and then there will also be a National Student Clearinghouse section with analytics for us to look at as well.
Can you please just give a quick explanation of what National Student Clearinghouse is?
Yeah, so
for
National
people
Student
that don't-
Clearinghouse is, it is a company that basically compares graduation rosters with enrollment data across the country at various institutions. I think they're in the high 90% of schools. And so what we're able to do as a district is take a look at how many of our graduating class enrolled in a 2-year university? How many enrolled in a 4-year university? How many persisted and came back as a sophomore? How many transferred somewhere? Things like that. They basically just we send them our graduation cohort. They cross-reference that across their vast network and then run those analytics for us in terms of what are our students doing after they leave. So with that, I'd love to give you some time. If you haven't logged in or you have any problem logging, Jess and I can help you log in. But once you log in, click on that demo as a student. We want to give you a few minutes to play around and then ask logistical questions or things that might come up. And let's give you I don't know where we're at, 5 to 10-ish minutes to kind of look at that. And then we'll kind of we'll close it out with where we're headed next.
So I logged in and
Yes.
I really like it. It's really cool. And I'm wondering if parents will also have access to this.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, you want to talk about how they do that?
Yeah, so right now, they can get access to via a claim code. So essentially, it's kind of like Canvas, where either students can give them permission or we can give them the claim code. Eventually, just because we're kind of soft rolling it out, we didn't want to just mass send out a bunch of claim codes and have parents be like, I have no idea what this is. So eventually it will be kind of like a process that we'll have that will just remind parents that they have access and give them a code. We do have an event coming up next week called the Life and Career Readiness Fair. School Links is actually coming, and that would be part of the process. Is we're going to have a room available so parents can get on and students can get on if they haven't done so already. Yeah.
Does that mean parents only have access to their own students' information?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and it's kind of in a view only, so like they can't go in and apply to college for their students, but they can
Oh.
suggest colleges for them to apply to, yeah.
So there is limited access?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once we get the course planner and educational plan and profile in there, they'll be able to see that and actually like check that they've reviewed it. So us as counselors can see that they've seen their student's educational plan.
Jess, you haven't used the word forecasting yet. You know, this
Yes.
is the big, this is the big word right
Coming.
now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And kids are working on it right now. But this eventually would be, right, the whole process?
Yeah, so ideally, and we're working with School Links and IT right now to figure out the rollout. We're hoping that next year we can forecast within School Links. Because
And-
essentially, we'll have a 4-year plan. Students will select their classes. We can check that they're okay, and then it will feed to our student information system as those are the classes they're forecasting for.
Yes, and then in building a master schedule,
Yep.
does this link in?
Yeah, we'll link
Do
to
we know?
Synergy. We still have to build in Synergy,
Okay.
but yeah, it will kind of eliminate the multiple steps that we're doing right now for forecasting.
And in terms of rolling it out, do y'all have a specific, I guess, governance model or like a roadmap of how and when you're doing that? And are various community organizations such as LCA going to be involved in terms of like, you know, maybe having a community night at LCA where folks can come in and different hubs like that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about rollout, give it, next steps is coming. We got a bunch of slides on next steps, and so we'll talk about what that looks like for sure. So if you still have a question around what that looks like after that, then I think that you want to see that. So we'll hold off on that one.
How is this updated with all, I mean, there's a lot of data that goes into this.
Yep.
How is
Syncs
that?
every night.
It syncs every night, so it syncs with our system, so every time a student enrolls, the next day they're able to get in, where they're at, all of our enrollment stuff nightly, and then they have a network of folks that keep updated information on the schools and the job market, and they have, the CEO of this program, she's pretty amazing. She's like on Forbes 30 under 30 list, like she put this thing together, and so she's put together, Katie Fang's her name, she's put together a large network of integrated systems that kind of continually update, but if all else fails, like even our kids, if they go in and they see something wrong, they can click on that little chat feature and let the folks know, and then they're really responsive and they correct and they change those things. And so it's a combination of this automated system with these updates that they run, as well as feedback from the users in terms of if something's incorrect and getting it rectified.
Yeah.
I think the, for next week event at Caldera, right?
Yep.
That's open to sixth grade and above. I'm just looking at the School Links website. Is there going to be any exploration in the K through 5?
So
later?
at this point in time, they do have a K through 5 feature. And when the committee came together to kind of talk about next steps, I talked about how we've chosen to move forward with both School Links and Wayfinder. And at the time, thinking about load and implementation and fidelity of next steps, we decided at the time to move forward with just Wayfinder at the K-5, but to leave the door open to expand School Links to K-5 eventually. But it's a per pupil basis for the cost, and we didn't feel like the elementary classes were ready to adopt both at the same time, looking at the teacher load. And so they're doing a really good job of kind of getting some foundational Wayfinder pieces in place. And then we'll, at another date, take a look at when does it make sense to roll from 6-12 down to, and get that K-5 in there as well. Because Wayfinder does have college and career readiness aspects as well, that we felt that those needs could be met at the elementary level through Wayfinder still. The Wayfinder just couldn't do some of the bigger advanced college career planning stuff that was needed at the secondary level, and that's why we landed in both.
And with that continuation from elementary to middle school, are you able to import that data from Wayfinder into School Links?
There isn't a crossover with the platforms at this time. That's a great question. That'd be something that we'd have to talk to the developers about. I do know that for this system, that all the things the students do follow them for as long as they're in our system, and the counselors and the teachers can see that. But we are using Wayfinder more for that skill building piece that I talked about, around having those future-ready post-secondary success skills. And then we're using School Links as the way to kind of talk about self-awareness and aptitude and career pathways. So that's kind of how we're tackling that at this moment. What's that? Speaking of which, so we have you in there. We had to put you in as a teacher so you could demo as a student. You will be losing access tomorrow, just because you have access to students in there, and we got to make sure that we keep that clean. So, are there any other questions of those using it? Yes.
I got a question.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, it could just be the computer. But when I go to filters under colleges, it does a bunch of blinking flashing. Am I missing a certain?
It should look like this.
Yeah.
Might be your
But,
resolution. 'cause
It's under filters, like it's like,
Filters.
it's, here, I can just,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that shouldn't be happening.
I think that's a you specific computer thing. I haven't seen that one yet.
okay. Maybe,
Do command minus.
Are there any other questions around the tool itself before we talk about next steps with it? Melissa?
No, I was just going to say thanks for the time for allowed to poke around with it.
I know
It's-
it's short, but
No, but it
Just-
was cool. I took a couple of the assessments and it's pretty interesting. I'm excited.
did you have a celebrity that was just like you, that caught your eye?
I'm going to say that dentistry, and I have adult braces. I don't know if it was like flagging that, but
Well, I will say I got health sciences as my first one, so it's somewhat accurate, much better than in middle school when I had to take a career assessment. My top two were clergy or plumber, which neither one of those seemed applicable, but as a nurse practitioner, I'm kind of a clergyman who's also a plumber now, so maybe there was some truth there.
All connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna let Jess kind of talk about some next steps, and then we're gonna talk about our night next Tuesday, and then take any further questions.
All right, so this year we deemed as year 0 because we were just trying to get our feet wet with our new platform. So the focus this year was just doing student onboarding, and we initially focused on high school because we really wanted to use the college application management tool. So we actually started with seniors, and at the beginning of the school year, we had a college application kickoff event for senior families to come district-wide. We probably had 250, 300 people there to get them onto School Links. And then counselors spent the next few weeks onboarding students at their school site to get everyone on School Links so that we could start using the college application manager portion of it. So the biggest lift at the beginning of the school year, but we were able to get the tracking of college applications. We got able to send school reports, get our transcripts uploaded, and sending letters of recommendation. And the feedback from the teachers as well was that it was really seamless for them to be able to send letters of rec via school links. The other component that we worked on was the scholarships, or STC Future Center. They've been working on getting all our scholarship information uploaded, so it was easier access. Prior to this, we were using a Google Sheet that had to be manually updated. This is a little bit more aligned and easier access for students. And then we have, like, once students were onboarded, they've been able to kind of explore the platform as they wish. And when we've been asking feedback if students have been taking any of the inventories. And then the middle school counselors actually agreed to try out 3 of the same lessons this year. So they're currently working on providing those to students right now. So then we'll have some good data on those 3 lessons and activities to see if it was a good fit for that grade level, and kind of move forward from there. And then another big thing was the transcripts. So before we were using Parchment, and Parchment actually integrates with School Link. So we now have all of our transcripts mass uploaded. Prior to this, when counselors were sending Common App reports, we had to upload a transcript one by one. We didn't have this mass upload process. And so when you see the data and how many applications we've sent, it was a lot of extra work, and this has helped a lot, save us some time on that, because all of our transcripts are in here ready to go. And our curriculum secretaries upload every time they change a transcript or we end a grading period. So that was the focus this year. And then with that, we've been able to get some analytics. So School Links has a whole analytics button for us on our side when we view. So I can see how many, and this is district-wide data. If a counselor logs in, they'll only see their school, but I have district-wide access. And so I can see that we've had 13,000 logins. There's over 4,000 students that have been logged into School Links. And then we can see by school how many logins each school has, which is great data for us. And then with that, once the students do go through those lessons and set some career goals, we can actually look at that data. So students that have completed Find Your Path in middle and high school, I can see all the top career choice interests, as well as the Would You Rather was another lesson that middle school counselors were doing with students. And so that can help us inform kind of those next steps with career curriculum that we want. So if we're gonna invite a career speaker, it would make sense that we look at this data to see what students are interested in. And then we can actually poll and say, you know, hey, we noticed that you're interested in health science. We have this career speaker coming, and invite students to attend. So it allows us to be more in tune with what our students are interested in. And then we were able to get some initial college application data. This isn't final because decisions are still rolling back, but we've processed over 3,700 college applications have already been submitted through School Links. There's 637 seniors that have submitted at least one college application, both 2- and 4-year colleges. We already have acceptances being put into School Links with nearly 500 acceptances, which is pretty cool. And then this is always something that we're interested in as counselors, is how many schools are students applying to. So the average was around 6, nearly 6. And then we'll constantly be building this data up until the end of the school year, and then next year we can use that with our younger students. They can see where students are headed. And then we get asked this a lot, and so now we can actually pull data with where our students the most applied to colleges at this point. So obviously the Oregon schools were first, and then you'll see COCC is up there at 5. And so it's just kind of an interesting statistic to look at. And then for next steps, so moving forward, we are hoping to integrate the forecasting process and course planner and educational plan and profile all into one place. so that students can access it, counselors can access it, and parents can see it as well. And it can be updated within the same location. A lot of us are still using like paper, pencil for your plans. And, you know, you give that to a student and then I don't know where it goes. So now it's all kept in one spot. So we're very excited for that rollout. We are looking at what activities we're gonna be delivering as tier 1. So right now, this platform has been really living with the counselors. We're kind of owning it at this point, but figuring out creative ways to get the curriculum to students, whether, you know, middle school is using advisory a lot. Depending on the high school, they may use advisory, classroom lessons, freshman foundations. It kind of just depends, but we're coming to agreements of what we want all students to access on a tier 1 level, and then the school is kind of figuring out how that looks based on their schedule and stuff. So we're meeting next week. So School Links will be in town during the day. The counselors are going to do some professional learning with School Links to kind of really hone in on what we think our initial scope and sequence will be for School Links next year. And then we piloted it with our early grads. We're doing a senior exit survey as part of the checkout process. So students in this survey will identify what their post-high school plan is, update college admissions or programs that they might be attending. And then we have a short little district-wide survey that all students will complete. And then this is where they put in their personal email address and make sure that they can log in and access as an alumni. So that's going to all be part of the senior checkout process this year. And then we'll have some good data from seniors in terms of how their experience in Ben Lapine was with our programming. And then we're just also very excited to start using the analytics a little bit more. We finally have access to some good data. That's it.
Will, I don't know if this is like a HR, well, no, it wouldn't be an HR question, but do you know if it's possible without like extracting data from School Links, if you could integrate School Links data with Youth Truth data?
I would say on the surface, probably not. We would probably have to take both sets of data and do something internally with our team.
An
And so
SPSS or something?
that's a Dr. Dave Van Loo question,
Yeah.
I'm sure. So right now, I feel confident that we can't, but I would have to ask some people with a lot more tech savviness than me to answer that question.
Can we add that to the minutes? I want to see that. And then my other question was.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Keena? So the integration, what are you hoping to look
I
at?
mean, what I think about is,
There.
in my mind, what I think about is, so I'm thinking about these charts that show how many students at each school has logged in to School Links. And I want to see how that data correlates with the Youth Truth Survey and the total favorable, total unfavorable experiences at these schools. And I feel like that could glean some really interesting nuggets.
I think that we could look at those two sets of data next to each other without like having a tech integrated system in terms of
Yeah.
number of logins and then favorability of college and career readiness reporting in Youth Truth.
Yeah.
That's what you're
I mean,
getting at?
even if we could get raw data from each system. and
That's
put
where I
them-
think we would
yeah.
probably be able to meet that. Beyond that, I don't think so, but I think we could look into that.
Does that help?
And I think that goes back to my question about in terms of, are you going to make it a class? Because I think the more kids get practice and opportunities to be able to understand how to utilize the things and the things work and what feedbacks they're getting, I think it allows us to look at what we talk about as one of our goals. So it's like, that's that piece. The other thing I was going to ask is with FAFSA having the issues that they're having right now, has that been a concern?
Well, I mean, everybody's concerned. It's been a bumpy rollout is the most positive way I could probably put it. And our schools are aware, our staff are prepared. They're having those conversations with students, with families. I know that colleges are starting to push back acceptance deadlines. Oregon State just did that recently and pushed it back to June 1st. It's not impacting this system in terms of like its use. It's just that that data, that information is just not in our students' hands yet for them to make those choices. And so we're kind of on hold in terms of, for a lot of our students, choosing where they're going to attend because they haven't received their financial aid packages yet. But the latest update was mid-March. So we'll see kind of where that lands. And I expect we'll have a lot more data once that gets through and students start choosing. But it hasn't impacted school links. It's just impacted our families with their ability to make choices.
And to give you any feedback to help with that, it's mostly heard in the universities more than anything with their processes as things start linking up. In terms of some of the smaller colleges, it's easier to be a little bit more flexible, just giving you a heads up on that piece. Tell the families continue to keep staying on top of it, whatever you can to help them with that. I just had this conversation.
Yeah.
So just want to give you a heads up. Like I said, let them know to keep trucking at it because we want to make sure these students have the opportunity to be able to engage. So yeah.
I promise this is my last question. This is really cool.
What's what we're here for? I'm glad that that's the takeaway for you.
My last question, promise, is are fan advocates going to be, have they been involved in these engagement events and getting the words out to families?
For the life and career readiness?
For all of these family engagement
Yeah,
events?
yeah. Yeah, we communicate with FAN, our liaisons, our community liaisons as well.
So speaking of next steps, next Tuesday night, if you'd like to come, we'll have our, in your other capacity for COCC or as a?
I'll just be there.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So we have our Life and Career Readiness Night. We're really excited about it. I do have to give credit to Caldera's DECA program. It was kind of, we had this on our radar and one of their students actually was really passionate about it as well. And so we decided to partner together. And Chloe, who's a sophomore there, you would think she's a college sophomore with her organization skills, has been working really hard with the DECA program there, and then Jess and I to put this together. We're really excited. We're gonna have school links there with an introduction, and then we're gonna kind of have a breakout like career and college expo with tables lined up through Caldera's whole building, military, trades, schools, financial sector, and students can go and ask questions. There'll be handouts, swag. We're going to have some breakout sessions from OSU and COCC. There's food trucks out front that are going to be there, so we're really excited about it. And so if you're able to join, we're going to use this to kind of continue to spread the word around School Links and how it's supporting students, and then back it up with some awesome community partners that'll come into the building and be available to talk to students. And then here's some of our other things that we've done so far and where we have planned. We've been working to coordinate. I talked a little bit at the beginning around this idea that everybody kind of had their own thing. And we've been working to coordinate our messaging and change our locations and get families. And so far this year, we've done a college application night. We've done a financial aid update night. We have an academic night that we did last month. We have the Life and Career Readiness Fair, and then we have some other nights coming up, a college information night and fair later in March. And then we're gonna work to do a scores back night for pre-ACT and PSAT sometime in May. So we've been working to coordinate this messaging and the participation with our families. And so School Links has been really helpful in that process to have that as a tool to point to for parents. And so, year zero, and we'll continue to move forward. And that Youth Truth data, our goal is to continue to see that tick up even more as we continue to roll this tool out. Yes, so any other questions?
You don't think we've asked too many already?
No, I like answering them. It's all good.
No, I think my only question, I'm excited about that next year piece for targeting family engagement and events with middle school families. I think my lingering question with this work is what you spoke to earlier about 6th through 8th grade and happening in advisory. I'm familiar with Mountain Time when you were my child's principal.
Right.
But the consistency of those programs across our middle schools and making sure that there is the time to really do this well in our middle schools across the district.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm really excited about is that, we hear from our middle schools specifically that they would like support in terms of what is delivered in those, right? Versus leaving that up to the teachers and the members to do. And so this is one great thing that we have here that we can support that. We can put together a comprehensive advisory curriculum that is tied to school links that will follow them 6th through 8th grade and start tying into that high school planning so that when they show up on a ninth grade at a counselor's door, there's been all this work done ahead of time that a counselor's gonna know so much more about that student and what their plans and aspirations are when they have that conversation. And so advisory is actually fantastic because it gives you a natural fit of where this can live. And so we do anticipate it playing a large role moving forward in our advisory curriculum.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just trying to back out of this into my board book. Board chair report. Item number 7. I have a couple. First, I was going to ask Superintendent Cook if he could provide us with a brief a synopsis on snow days and how those may or may not be considered for makeup.
Thank you, Chair Barnes-Delakia. Brief, you lingered on the word brief. Honestly, to talk about it, I have to go all the way back to 2021. And if you recall, when we returned from winter break on 2021, we ran into weather, and we had what was arguably our first day back. We considered sending folks home early. The second day back, we did a 2-hour delay, and the third day back, we chose not to call a snow day, and we got a lot of feedback that, at least in certain parts of the district and the community, that was probably the wrong call. And so we did a lot of listening. I mean, a lot of listening, and got a lot of feedback, and immediately took that feedback and turned around and integrated into systems to be better informed for any time we were moving forward. One of those, there was about 12 or 13 different direct pieces of feedback that we changed. We changed communication strategies. We changed how we were going to notify. We changed criteria. We added drivers in the county. One of the things that was a point of interest, and it got lots of conversation, was if and when we would be in a situation where it might become necessary to make up snow days or inclement weather or any kind of emergency days of any kind, is notifying, putting those days on the calendar so that they were pre-noticed, if you will. So we started this year with that particular issue and identified the days that we were going to have. These are days that are potential makeup days if we got into that situation. As you know, we've had 3 snow days this year. They've happened to be, if I'm not mistaken, all 3 two Wednesdays, which are shortened days because of the nature of how we do our school improvement days. And so we wound up tracking the math. The math indicated we were actually going to wind up short. If nothing else changed, we were going to wind up short of required minutes to meet the state expectations. You really have 3 options at that point. You can apply for a waiver to the state to be essentially exonerated from making those minutes happen. Number 2, you can add minutes to the day in some fashion, and like calling back time during those training times or professional development times, or we call them protected teacher planning times, or you're adding days to get to those thresholds. And so we considered all 3 of those, and I can go into detail on each one if you want, what were competing factors. The priority when you talk about 3 days of lost instruction was, number 1, is there a need to have additional instructional time? Number 2, if you are not aware, we have staff that don't get paid if they don't work. Not all, some are paid in a positive timesheeting aspect, and some are paid whether they show. And so that tends to be a consideration. Those are not certified staff, if you will. Those are some of our hourly staff. And then the other question becomes whether or not it is even feasible for us to be adding minutes to days, or to take away things like conferences or other holidays or other things like that. And one of the things we have learned is there's a calendar committee that exists now that is getting rather robust with a lot of assignments that it does. And one of the things that we've offered was to allow calendar committee to start talking about how would we prioritize makeup time if we needed to utilize that, and give them some authority to say whether or not, for example, President's Day could become like day number one if it were an opportunity that we needed to. And so that process is now happening. Long story short, and trying to keep this as brief as possible, in making those selections, I felt like the most appropriate decision was to add the 2 days at the end of the school, utilizing some of those days that had been previously marked on the calendar. Lots of feedback went into getting that list put together over the last 2.5 years. And so we've done our best with that. I don't know if anybody's ever happy. You know, the calling of a snow day is always cathartic and a big deal. And then the potential of making those up is also cathartic and a big deal. And so we've had some folks that have had pretty substantial interest. You know, one of the things I've heard from a lot of people is, you know, Ben's an expensive place to live. Many of our staff, both hourly classified staff and our certified staff, have commitments to other professions during the summertime. And then how do they balance that? And so our HR department is working on what are the ways that folks can meet expectations for both they would be considering both of their obligations, whether it's to make up the 3 contract, if you're a teacher, for example, make up the 3 contracted days that you will have been paid for by the time this year is out. And we're choosing to just make up 2 of those days, or the hourly staff that haven't been paid yet that would get paid for doing that work, or the hourly staff that's essentially being paid as those days happen. And so we've had feedback that it makes sense. We've had a lot of feedback that there's some frustration about the fact that we've extended the year, not just from staff, but from families who have made plans as well. So,
Dr. Cook, that last week of school, our staff who are contracted are under obligation to us, correct?
say that question again?
So like the last week of school, our staff is still potentially under obligation to work for us.
That's correct. Yeah.
So if we have staff who are choosing a second job during the week when they're contractually obligated, is that not like a violation of their contract?
No, it's actually not. What we did was to try to work proactively by noticing these are the days that we would choose. The one thing we didn't that looking back now is a learning and an opportunity for us is to start to figure out what would be the prioritization. What days would we prioritize if we were going to have to make up one, we were going to have to make up two, we were going to have to make up three. Being more clearly explicit on numbering and labeling those days. And so the question becomes, when you say contractually obligated, that still, we can work things out. Like there are several ways that they could do that. And that's the work of our HR department to work that through. For example, someone could, if they chose to, take an unpaid leave of absence to miss a leave of absence to miss a day that they're like, I've got a commitment here I have to go to. And so there are pathways forward. They just are, they're real decisions, I think is probably the easiest way to say that.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that calendaring that went into this year and actually forward thinking what might happen when we had these snow days. And so it's great to have that option. My next three pieces, I have three updates. One, I just want to provide a recognition of the Boys and Girls Club as a partner. I was able to tour their facilities and hear about the 360, I believe, unique students that are served through their program, both through after school and summer. And just am thankful for that opportunity for our kids, and we get to see them play on the front lawn. So thank you, Boys and Girls Club. An update on the strategic planning focus group for my fellow board members. If you haven't been reached out to yet, Whitney Swander, our facilitator, is reaching out to board members to schedule time to get your input in that process. And then last, now that we know that we have voted in favor of the levy, just a clarification, while the school district will not be doing anything besides informational sessions and work, there is a political action committee called Central Oregonians for Responsible Education, or CORE, and they will be doing work on this levy, and so you should look out for information from them. With that said, I will move to board comments, starting with Director Olson.
I do have a comment that I'd like to make tonight. Sunday afternoon, which is typically not a time that we schedule district-type meetings or activities, but the Student Voice Council met, and it's one of the few times that they can actually get all those kids together. I just want to shout out to Jackie Wilson. Not only does she direct what they're doing on those days, during their meetings, but she also, it's a full curriculum, almost. She starts with some kind of a, what do you want to call it? A warm-up, if you will. So she starts with a warm-up. She always has snacks. She has something for the kids to play with, while they're sitting there. But they were talking specifically about a couple of things, and one of them was forecasting. And they talked about how much they thought that their individual schools, how much the kids really understood what forecasting was and what it meant, and they didn't have the idea that forecasting helps build a master schedule. So if nobody signs up for AP Chemistry, they're not going to offer it next year. So, that kind of thing. But they did have some suggestions about the curriculum guides. They are outdated, apparently. And so with this whole new system, with School Links, I think we have an opportunity to really put that whole process in a different, concept. The second thing they talked about, of course, was the snow days and the extra days in June. And their concern was legitimately, if we've already taken finals, our teachers have already determined grades, what are we going to do those last 2 days? And so I would like to propose that we have a call out to all our schools that those are instructional days and they need to be honored as instructional days. So yes, if kids have a reason to miss those days, they'll miss something. But it's important to not just watch a movie or or play a game. So I would like that call out to everybody, probably through the principals. Thank you.
Just a quick comment. Steve, thanks for the clarification, or Dr. Cook, excuse me. And also I want to add, I really appreciate the students and families and educators who share their voices regarding the additional school days decisions, and I think that's really valuable. One thing in addition to educators having additional work following that last day, is there are a lot of students who plan their work schedule around that. And so I'm hoping that there can be some navigation for high schoolers, particularly if they have finished their final exams or final projects, that for those students who are counting on those days for work, that there can be some sort of support in place. Thank you.
I just wanted to express my gratitude for the RAICES program. I went to visit them, I think, last week, and they specifically were talking about certain dates in Mexico and Guatemala where they take pride in their countries. So students were learning about the reason why the Mexican flag has red in there. What is that honor? Why is there green? And then they're also learning about how the marimba in Guatemala is kind of like a country instrument, and also linking that to how that also crosses other countries and that interconnectedness So it's really awesome to see elementary age students really like learning in depth about their culture and history and connectedness. And I'm also ecstatic about the passing of, or a vote for the levy. And then also school links. So thank you, Jess and Stephen and Steve and Dr. Cook. I know this is a really, it was a very uplifting meeting today. And just really grateful for that.
No comment.
First and foremost, I want to thank all of you. Thank Dr. Cook, Deputy Superintendent Norquist. The thing I want to thank everyone for is their commitment to going into schools. You know, I appreciate that. We know we volunteered to be able to do this. I know we were elected as well, but we actually go into the schools, and I really appreciate our board taking the time to get to really know the school environments and not just, you know, come here and do our stuff. We actually take the time to really get to figure out what our constituents want and what they need, what our students' needs are, and I really appreciate you that. So this next thing I want to talk about is Black History Month. I got to survey a lot of students, and I'm gonna give you the recommendation of what the students said they would love to see when it comes to Black History Month from this point on. Some of the high schoolers I surveyed, they says, please, teachers, if you can find ways to integrate some of the inventors, some of the different people and their contributions, not just doing Black History Month, doing it throughout the whole school year. They recommended that. The other piece is, and I'm gonna be honest here, they said don't have, you know what I wanna say, the lesson plans. Don't do it for 1 week and then don't do it the rest of the month. Other students, some of the middle school students I got to visit says, do us a big favor, let's make sure that we have some of these people in our classrooms all the time so we can see their pictures, so we can see who they are and what their contributions are. That was one of the big things they said too. They says, because if we know these things, we would know, if we learn these when we're in kindergarten, they're prevalent in our minds, not just, you know, only doing 1 month a year. And then finally, the student says, one student really, she was awesome. She mentioned, she says, here's the thing, we're not afraid to learn. We don't want to be like other states. We want to learn about what Black history is and what their contributions to all these African Americans and Black Americans contributed to what we did. So I really appreciated that. So I just want to thank the students, thanks the teachers who were committed to working hard and doing it. Thank the schools that continued work to do it as well, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I made my comments during the board chair report. And so our next regular school board business meeting is scheduled for March 12th, 2024. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.
Marcus, did you say